physical education and coaching, tennis teaching, coaching, and how they intersect, the importance of it, if we think it's important, and we'll move from there. And I've got hopefully some cool videos that on your end will pull up really nicely, that will show you some drills, some ideas of how to implement some things that I've used a lot over the past few years. My time at USA Player Development with our Team USA, junior camp structure across the country. We've ingrained it in all of our camps and trainings, and this athletic development piece is a huge part of what we do. We have great work with the tennis coaches. They love it. And obviously the kids love it too. They have fun. You'll see in the videos that they're all smiles, but they're also working hard and working on the skills that they need to. So we get the whole really nice mix of everything. So as we kick off here, I've got, this isn't the first, it is a question, but it's not the first question I'm going to ask you. First question I'm going to ask you is, what you think the daily recommendations are for physical activity? And this may be from like the CDC, this may be from Department of Education. Let's get that chat box up and throw in some answers, throw in some thoughts as I figure out where the chat box is. Oh, I figured it out. I just haven't figured out. Hold on.
Got people, yeah. People chiming in there. Can you see it all?
I got it. I got it. All right.
All right, good.
I do have it. Okay. Let's have a little look. 25 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, 42, very specific. 45 to an hour, at least an hour and a half a day, 30 minutes a day, 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 40, 30, 10,000 steps. Yeah. Like that. 25. All right. So I think, 60 minutes a day. All right. I'll give you 20 more seconds for people to answer. 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour. Okay. So looks like we have a little bit of a tie between an hour, 30 minutes to an hour. So what the guidelines and recommendations are, so there's multiple. So I'm going to come at it from a school perspective. So the recommendations from CDC, Department of Education, is for elementary school age is 30 minutes a day. So that's 150 minutes a week. Okay, 150 minutes a week. For middle and high school ages, it's 225 minutes per week, which breaks down to about 45 minutes to an hour per day. So that's where we're at. So, but where's the reality? What is the reality of what we face? Because if those are the guidelines, what's the reality? Because I know I didn't really know the guidelines. When I started coaching in the private sector, I was in America, went back to the UK, moved back to America again and started coaching, went into schools, tried to build up a grassroots program. These kids were definitely not getting 30 minutes a day of physical education. So I started to explore, well, what is going on? Like, what are the averages? Because everywhere's a little bit different. I know every state, every district, is a little bit different, but what are the realities? So 69% of elementary schools required physical education. Okay, 70. So that means 30% of schools don't even require to do physical education in the States. So I was like, okay, that's to me, that's actually pretty shocking. So let's go further. What's the next one? 3.8% of elementary schools actually provided daily physical education. 3.8%. Now, I do have to say this data is taken from a few years ago, and I didn't really find the most recent, but this was taken from a few years ago. But 3.8, that's pretty shocking again. So the daily recommendation is not being hit by 97% of schools. What's the next one? 13.7% of elementary schools provided physical education 3 times a week. Okay, so still a really, really pretty shocking number. And then the last one I've got for you here is less than 24%, less than 1/4 of children ages 6 to 17 years old actually participate in 60 minutes of physical activity every day. So that is the culmination of school, maybe it's physical education, before school, after school programs, less than 25% of children between 6 and 17. And this is a data that there was a survey that was done from the Child and Adolescent Health Measurement Initiative that did a pretty big survey for the national. It was a national survey of children's health. So, I mean, looking at that, and that was done in 2016. So looking at these numbers started to validate what I was seeing as a tennis coach when I was going into these schools in my local area when I was in New Mexico. And then talking to a lot of coaching friends, especially as I've been here with the USTA the past 4 years, understanding the 10 and under realm, getting kids to participate in the sport and stay in the sport, understanding that most of the kids obviously go to school. What are the initiatives in schools? Really understanding that basic physical education that should be every child's right is to have physical education is not there. So not every kid in this country has the right to a physical education, which is pretty shocking. So, you know, in those schools, you got to look at what's going on. That they're squeezing out PE classes and they're squeezing out recess because of the increasing educational demands. Right? I think we've all seen, whether you've got kids yourself or you know, the kids that you coach or teach. You know, the demands in schools. Obviously, we're in a bit of a different scenario now with COVID and online teaching, which will be another interesting. That will provide some interesting data along, you know, the next few years. But we're seeing all this testing in schools, and the results of testing is obviously tied to financial funding, governmental funding. So recess, unfortunately, getting squeezed out. Physical education in schools getting squeezed out, and this has really kind of been the trend that's been going since 2001, since this sort of No Child Left Behind Act was implemented. And another number I have for you that I'm not going to put on the screen, but I can tell you, is that out of that, since then, you know, 44% of school administrators report cutting significant time from PE and recess. So there's more time for subjects like reading and math. So, and that was from a report from the Institute of Medicine. So pretty shocking, knowing that I think most of you on this, if you work in this youth population, will know the benefits of physical education, having active kids. So if we just go through it here, and again, I know probably most of you know this, but this will be the result from many studies you probably see, or many things that you see in the news articles that come out, that physical activity improves kids' fitness, lowers their risk of obesity and type 2 diabetes, and helps build strong bones and muscles. Children who are more active have greater attention spans and better academic performance. So ultimately, we have decision makers that are taking it upon them to ignore the facts that the overwhelming data shows us that if you have more physically active kids, it actually helps them with better grades in the classroom. We know this. We've seen many studies over the past decade that tie these two together. Yet we have governmental policies in place that dictate taking physical education away. Every kid's right to a physical education is taken away for that. So, and this quote right here was taken from the CDC when they were researching the association between school-based physical activity and academic performance. So that's what we know. So the biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is, how are we going to overcome this? Because I think we can all agree, the more physically active kids that we have in schools, the more that's going to spark their interest to take on those interests further, looking outside of schools to spark their interest even further, to get them involved in a sporting activity, tennis, hopefully, soccer, whatever it may be. Their interest in any of you that have been in the schools and have been able to draw kids from schools into your local programs, you'll see that. So, you know, I want to do a shout out for the USTA is putting together an American development model, and something actually myself and Dr. Carl Davis will be presenting on at the USPTA World Conference in the next couple of weeks. around the American development model and being a framework for success. So this isn't to say that you follow this model, you're going to retain 100% of your kids and you're going to have real high-performing players. You'll be able to turn kids into high-performing players. But what it does show is that having a framework in place is extremely important in being able to develop not obviously only their tennis skills. That's what we are, tennis coaches. We're training them and developing with their tennis skills, but that ultimately what underpins that is their athletic skills. And we have a part to play in that. And this American development model is a framework that will help you underpin the skills that will then help them be able to become better tennis players. So how are we going to overcome this? Watch out right now. This is going to pop out at the screen. You, me, you. I believe we are responsible, or we should be in part responsible for helping develop the physical qualities of our students. Knowing what we know from the data, knowing what we know with what's going on in schools and the lack of physical education, I think I personally have felt a sense of responsibility that I have to provide that for kids and for children as part of my tennis programming or as part of my lessons. So as we go through this next, the second part of this presentation, I've got some questions for you in a second. Now, as we go through this presentation, this is going to be showing you some of those ways that we can incorporate a physical education as well as into their tennis programming and how they tie together to make them better tennis athletes. So if we can take on that responsibility, I think we're going to have kids that enjoy it a lot more. They're going to want to stick around a lot longer and see how their skills develop even further. And ultimately, that's going to only mean one thing for our businesses. That means we're going to retain kids, we're going to keep them in the sport, and they're going to bring their friends with them, hopefully. Certainly one thing that I saw in my private program settings before the USTA, and certainly what I see when I go around the country to, other fantastic private coaches programs and seeing why they're doing such a good job, is being able to provide a lot of different elements that capture their engagement and keep them involved. So poll time. Evan, we've got a poll for the attendees. So there should be 3 polls that pop up here. Okay, did you have to stop the screen share? Okay. So the first poll is, on average, how much time do you spend in a warm-up activity? How much time do you spend on a warm-up in a private lesson, assuming that your private lessons are 1 hour? So go ahead and fill that out. The second question, on average, how much time do you spend on a warm-up activity in a group lesson? Assumption is, let's say that's a 2-hour group session. And then on average, how much time do you spend on a fitness program within your programming, within your maybe a group session? Assumption again is your group session is 2 hours. Do you dedicate some of those 2 hours to a athletic development portion, a fitness portion? So go ahead and fill that out, and we'll give you about 30 seconds, and then hopefully the results pop up.
Johnny, are you seeing the results polling up here? So we've got about half.
I am not seeing the results.
Check the bottom of the screen. There should be a polls selection. Kind of next to the where the share screen is. That might pop it up for you.
Got it. Hold on. Let me get this up here. The polls, okay, polling. I'm still not seeing it, so you might just have to tell me.
Okay, let's see here.
It's all good. I'm going to go back and share my screen. Maybe you can tell me the results.
Yeah, I can also share my screen.
Oh, let's do that. Share your screen. I want to see these results.
All right.
Let's see.
All right. Are you seeing them?
Told you, it's my last day and everything's going wrong, Evan. No, I'm
You're not
just seeing
seeing
a
them?
bit. I'm just seeing a big black square in the middle of the screen. So let's
Huh.
do this.
Interesting. Okay.
Stop the share. I'll share my screen and you can just tell me.
Okay.
Perfect.
So I don't know why that's doing that. Okay.
All good. All right. So let's go to presenter mode. Swap displays. Okay. Can see the right screen there, Evan?
I'm seeing the first screen,
which is the
title screen.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So Evan, you want to tell me the results of the first two?
The first one, on average, how much time do you spend on a warm-up in a private lesson? Assumption is 1 hour. We had 3% choose 0 minutes, 33% choose 1 to 5 minutes, 52% do 6 to 10 minutes, and 12% 11 to 15 minutes.
Great. So about that 5 to 10 minute mark, over 50%. Okay, nice. What about the second one? Let's go to the 2-hour group session.
Yeah. So on average, how much time do you spend on a warm-up activity in a group lesson? Assumption is 2-hour lesson. 0% chose 0 minutes. 52% said 1 to 10 minutes. 42% said 11 to 20 minutes, and 6% said 21 to 30 minutes.
Great. And then the last one.
Yep. On average, how much time do you spend on a fitness program in a group tennis lesson, or in a group lesson? Assumption is a 2-hour session lesson. 6% said 0 minutes. I don't do fitness sessions. 27% said 1 to 10 minutes. 42% said 11 to 20 minutes, and 24% said 21 to 30 minutes.
Nice. All righty. Well, those are some good answers, and that's really interesting to see. So I think obviously in that hour lesson, it seems like that 5 to 10 minute mark is a bit of a sweet spot. In the 2-hour warm-up sessions, that sort of 10 to 20 seems to be a bit more of the sweet spot. And then the fitness sessions, a little bit of a combination. So yeah, really good. And you know, that's actually fairly consistent with some research I did last year. I sent out a survey to, I think, about 400 coaches, in which about 250 responded. And I asked very similar questions, and those answers are very similar. So, you know, so the way I look at it is, you know, I think we're able to spend a lot of time with the players when we bring them into the training center in Orlando. I think we're fortunate that we're not bound by time like I was in the private sector. Obviously, every hour, you're accounting for absolutely every hour to the minute for lessons, group lessons. When I was in the private sector, I came up with this sort of almost this 20 to 25% rule, which is no matter how long my sessions were, I was going to dedicate 20 to 25% of that time to athletic development. Or again, I mean, for the younger kids, that'd be more physical education based. Then as it goes from physical education to the foundation, it then goes into more athletic development skills and qualities. And then it starts turning into now applying movement principles to our sport of tennis. So those efficient movement patterns, how we move around the court. And then obviously if a lot of those kids go on to more of a performance track, that should translate into athletic performance. And if it doesn't translate into a performance track, we have a lot physically healthier people that we are hopefully inspiring and motivating to live a healthy lifestyle, which I don't know how you feel about it, but obviously we're in the tennis business. It's obviously very important. So if I go to those physical characteristics and a little bit, I'll give you the guidance of how I sort of start from the ground up. So it all starts with physical education. So when you break down physical education, if you can call it a movement vocabulary, what are we trying to help develop? What are those fundamental movement skills? Can really break these down into 3 categories. And this has been broken down into physical education curriculums for years and years and years. There's locomotor, non-locomotor, and manipulative. So locomotor, what is that? That's your walking, your marching, your running, your hopping, leaping, jumping, skipping, galloping, sliding. And within that, you can also incorporate from a tennis perspective, your side shuffling, your karaoke, which bleeds a little bit into the non-locomotor because of some of the bending, the twisting. but you can also apply those to locomotor. The non-locomotor, you're talking about the bending, the stretching, the swinging, the swaying, the twist, the turning, the push, the pulling. All these things, the landing, the balance, obviously super important for tennis, the landing and the balance, super important, and all used as you're saying these words. And when I first started looking at all these words and going, we use absolutely every single one of these in tennis. And then manipulative, you've got those hand-eye coordination skills, those eyes, mind, send, receive skills. You're looking at rolling, tossing, bouncing, throwing, striking, catching, trapping. So all those skills that then go into it. So it's important to learn how to trap. That's a receiving skill. Catching, receiving skill. Striking, to receive, and obviously then a send drill. Throwing, sending, bouncing, sending and receiving, tossing, sending, and then rolling, sending too. So all these skills all interact to develop a foundational athletic skills in any child. So as they then move up, as you move up the ladder, they start developing a decent foundation. What are the buckets we start categorizing that are important for then getting involved in sport? Well, we know movement's really important, and the movement for the sport. So tennis, what are the efficient movement patterns? What do you need? Understanding that all those things that I just mentioned there in the red, the yellow, and the green boxes underpin all these buckets that I'm about to explain. So movement, efficient movement patterns, how well do they move to the ball? The mobility. Mobility is really important. I like using this term called freedom of movement, which essentially means like how easy does it look for them to move to a ball, change direction, move back? Does it look free flowing, or does it look awkward? Does it look forced? Those are things that our coach's eye can constantly be looking out for. Conditioning, we know that's extremely important, especially the higher the level you play at. Conditioning is really important to be able to have in our sport or any sport. The conditioning level, it needs to be there. Strength is a really important skill that underpins the next two buckets. So the number one proponent of speed is power. The number one proponent of power is strength. So if we build up a decent strength base, which can be done in many forms and fashions, if you're working with younger kids pre-puberty, you're talking about a lot of stuff, body weight, then you start adding resistant bands, then you might start adding some light dumbbell weights, light kettlebells, and then they progress through to, a strength program that really enhances their bodies and their performance. Power is really important in tennis, and obviously, if any of you watched Azarenka and Williams last night, or Osaka and Jenny Brady, this game is about speed and power. And that's where the game is only going to get more powerful. It's going to require athletes to be faster. So that speed and power is extremely important in developing athletes in our sport. And as I said, all the things in red, yellow, and green there underpin these buckets. Unbelievable matches, by the way. Hope you all were able to watch some of that tennis last night, but unbelievable. Shame about Jenny Brady not being able to come through, but give a little shout out here to Roger Anderson and Stephen Us, who spent about 3-4 years with her after college at the training center, but also all the other great coaches that have worked with her. But anyway, just fantastic to see a great person doing so well. So anyway, let's go. Let's be moving on. Okay, so now I'm going to give you a little insight into a little bit of my how. How do I take these concepts here that are just shown on this screen? How do I implement them into my coaching? So I like to use, again, I'll go through the 4 buckets that I like to cover. And I mainly cover these as part of a warm-up, but these could also be your standalone fitness sessions, or what I like to call our athletic development sessions. So we have movement and mobility. So that's a lot of the locomotor activities. So a lot of the things that you're seeing here in the red and a little bit into the yellow, those locomotor activities will cover at the start of their warm-ups, or we'll get a little bit more in depth with it on days where athletes may need a little bit more rest and recovery. Strength and balance. So we go through some basic strength movement patterns: squatting, lunging, hinging, upper body push-pulling, and postural and rotational strength, which simply means core strength, front core, back core, but then that rotational strength for the power. Again, if you're looking at the athletic development warm-up that I do, I will go through these 4 in sequence, but these also can be components that you can use as standalone sessions on any given day in your athletic development sessions. So being able to cover these elements. Athletic movement. So literally, simply put, linear, can we move forwards and backwards? Lateral, can we move side to side? Multi-directional, can we move on diagonals? Can we change direction off diagonals into different diagonals? All that. And I think you can all agree, to play this sport, we need to be able to do all 3 and all 3 pretty well. And I think if you watch pretty decent juniors, you would say they're pretty good at moving forwards to a ball when they're engaged with their eyes and they're not waiting for the ball to come to them. I think most kids are pretty good laterally, because that's our sport. They generally go side to side quite a lot to hit the tennis ball. But I would say that not a lot of our good tennis players are good multi-directional movers. I think are really great tennis players, again, as you can see at the US Open, they are phenomenal movers, great multi-directional movers, great athletes. So that is our ability to help develop those skills in athletic movement, being able to move forwards, back, side to side, and in diagonals, multi-directional, semicircles, things like that. And then tennis movement preparation. We finish up with an activity that really understands the whole chain of how our sport is played. Our eyes are watching the ball, we are receiving something, and then our brain, our mind is coming up with an answer to what it's receiving. So then it's coming up with the sending. But as this process goes on, it's our eyes, our mind, then our feet, our body, our legs have to work. And then obviously our hands with our technique when we get to the ball. And I think you'll all agree, when we teach the sport, we teach generally to get the technique, then movement with the technique, and then movement with the technique, with a stimulus of that receiving a ball, send and receive. And then as that progression speeds up, what does that look like? So this is the fun part. And this is the part that I really miss in COVID right now, where we would be on court, going through these activities together, having a lot of fun. But we can't do that right now. And also, I actually did forget to mention this. COVID we are in a situation right now where we have an incredible opportunity to take the best sport for social distancing and get more kids in the game. And I would add on top of that, just talking to a lot of, my daughter's 3, so she's not in school yet, but talking to a lot of my coworkers and friends who have kids in school that are either chose the online options. There are parents that want to get their kids out of the house and get them physically active, but do it in a safe way. And I've heard from a lot of coaches around the country that they've seen a massive uptick in their programming, probably in part to do with that. So we have an opportunity, once we get them in through the doors of our clubs, let's keep them having fun, let's keep them motivated, keep them inspired, and hopefully I'm going to show you that right now. So let's start with the first part, movement and mobility. You'd all have seen the standard dynamic warm-up that we see around the country. The kids run a couple laps, they do their quad stretches, their arm stretches, they just stand around. You may see a couple yawns in there. I know I've seen a lot of yawning, a lot of kids really disengaged from actually doing it, not really bought into doing it. So we took the concept of why doing dynamic stretching is so important to really get warmed up in the right way. And I created 3 levels. I actually got about 5 or 6 levels, but to keep this simple, we created a few levels here. So you'll all know there's standing dynamic stretches like the quad stretch or a knee hug. Activity, a stretch that involves us being basically on our feet. A ground dynamic stretch is anything where we might have our knees, our legs, our butts, our backs, or our chests on the floor, and we're doing a dynamic stretch movement on the ground. And then a movement might be something simple like a hop, a jump, a skip, a side shuffle, a kangaroo jump. Kids love coming up with the kangaroo jump. So the way that I will teach this in groups is I will ask that, first of all, like you'll see here that, let's just take you through it. You'll see here that this is level 1, that this is a young player. Well, he doesn't look so young, but he's young. He's like 13. It's taking me through his sequence. So he's sequencing a standing to a ground to a standing. He came up with it. So he's taken me through what's doing. Now, obviously, to go from one to the next is a movement sequence that is very challenging. There's balance components. There's a lot of things going on in the mind. It has to keep thinking and processing as opposed to switching off, just doing one quad stretch. So this is a way we provide opportunities. But again, I'm asking the kids, once I've shown them obviously a bunch of different dynamic stretches, I'm asking the kids to come up with the sequence. So here's Abhishek again, taking two other kids through a sequence of ground, standing. So he's going to go cobra stretch. He's going into scorpion. Now he's challenging himself to try and get out that position without using his hands, which he's pretty pumped about right there. Hopefully you're seeing this video pretty well, by the way. And then the other kids are looking at Abhishek going, no way, how are you getting off the ground like that without using your hands? So they're having fun with it. They're being challenged, which is super important. And then this one here, we're going from a standing to a ground to a movement. So this one, they decided they wanted to incorporate a hop in. So they're doing their standing. This is their ground because they've got a hand on the ground and then straight into a hop. So there we go. Not mind-blowing stuff. I know it's not super, innovative, but it's something simple enough to take the concepts we know are good and spicing them up to challenge them, but also giving them ownership over choosing the exercises so they're bought into it more. So that's the movement mobility piece. Let's move on to the next part. Ignore the pictures coming up. I put some pictures in just in case the video didn't work, but just showing you a little bit here that we go from some movement to some mobility. Strength and balance. All right, this is again, so a lot of kids, and this is just from direct feedback from kids themselves, is strength training when they're younger is hard, but it's also kind of boring. Asking them to just stand there and do 10 squats in a row, or asking them to hold the position and just hold it for as long as they can with no stimulus. They find it boring. It is challenging because it's physically challenging, and any strength training for a kid is going to be challenging because they're building strength and they don't have a lot when they're a kid, right? They're going through that journey. But there's no challenge of the mind. There's no mental engagement. So here we're going to take that lunge. We decided today we're going to do a lunge, and this is how we're going to spice it up. So you'll see you've got the girl on the left is holding one tennis ball. She's going to be the feeder. The girl on the right is in the lunge position. She's the tracker. Now you'll see, let's just play it out. You'll see she has to tap across her body, and she has to switch the tennis ball in her hand in order to cross the body. Hopefully you're seeing this. This is a good one. They love this. So what I'm doing here is giving them 15 seconds. Let me just pause it right there. Let's go back a minute. What I'm doing right here is giving them 15 seconds and seeing how many correct taps they can get across the body in 15 seconds. And obviously there is a problem-solving element to this in having to switch the ball over hands in order to tap across the body. And you can see a couple times she gets a little bit caught and has to quickly switch back. Anyway, again, you can do this on a single leg. You can do this in a lunge position. There's many different ways you can do this type of activity. The next one, another way to develop strength. So I got a lot of questions about this during COVID. We can't take our kids in a gym. Kids are can't get in gyms. How do we develop some basic strength for our kids, our youth players? Crawling. I've just started to see my 10-month-year-old crawl and stand up and do all that. And I'm like, that's developing some serious strength. Now these kids, the tennis players, even these 10, 11, 12-year-olds here, they struggle with crawling. And this is the best way to develop some stabilization, some strength of the shoulders, the legs, the hips, the core, a really great way. And I'm just highlighting many different ways that you can crawl. And I have fun with that with the kids. I'm going to pause this one a minute. As you see, I put some names up here. This one's called side grill, but I have fun with this with the kids. I ask them, okay, give me a different environment you want to be transported to. It could be the sea, the ocean, the forest, the mountains. Okay, what do you want? Where the jungle? Take us somewhere. And they'll go, oh, take us to the jungle. Okay, well, in the jungle, there's a lot of gorillas. So we're going to start with the gorilla. Then one kid goes, take me to the sea. I like being by the sea. Okay, great. What's in the sea? We have a lot of crabs in the sea. Let's do some crabs. So that is a fun way for all ages to keep kids engaged, doing the crawls. One thing I will mention with crawling though, race crawling is not a good idea. the hands, the wrists have tiny, tiny bones in them, and they were not built to rapidly go fast over a hard surface. But doing it in a controlled manner, as these girls are doing so fantastically well, is a great way to help them improve that strength and their coordination. So just a little side note there, I hate seeing crawling races because it's just dangerous, and it's not that much fun, to be honest, to get complaints about kids with sore wrists. So this is one that we like to get competitive. So we're getting in a push-up plank position, and we're going to bring back that classic game of rock, paper, scissors. So rock, paper, scissors right now. I'm going to have Coach Jameer on the left, who loves to get involved with the kids. She absolutely loves participating. And this is, believe it or not, the girl on the right is actually 13 as well. She's a tall girl for her age. But all this stuff is great for her. She's gone through some rapid growth, so coordination's a little bit off, but she does an incredible job really applying herself and trying. So this is a quick game. We have them go first to 3, little rock, paper, scissors. So the whole game here, let's rewind this. The whole game here is you must win. So if I get my scissors and I beat paper, if you win, you run away. And then the person who lost has to try and tag you to neutralize so you don't win the point. So in this one, the girl on the right wins a rock, paper, scissors, and now she's going to run away. If she crosses over the doubles line, she gets a point. If the coach had tagged her, that would have been neutralized 0 points. So you only get a point for winning the rock, paper, scissors and successfully running away. A really good one. Again, you can do that standing up where it's just a standing activity. They get in like that strong athletic base, rock, paper, scissors, go. But for this one, we did the variation with the strength and stability component of the plank and in the push-up plank. You can also progress it where they do the plank on the forearms and do the rock, paper, scissors. That's a lot tougher. So I would recommend starting with that push-up plank position. All right, moving on. Hopefully you're getting all of this and picking up some good ideas. Again, these are pictures in case the video didn't work, but these are just some other activities that we do with strength, single leg activities, passing tennis balls to each other on a single leg. And there's also these straps that you can buy. They're like a TRX material with handles on the end, and they can go through doing some different strength patterns, which it's a super tough challenge for the kids because they have to work together to do the exercises. So you can see in the picture on the right, they're doing the squat. But if the person if you look at the first 2 girls in the picture, the girl on the left is standing up tall and tucking the strap in. If she either lets go or she adjusts her position, it affects the person in the squat. So they're doing a seesaw exercise here that's helping them with that. And again, they're super engaged because they have to work together in order to do it. So that's better than just standing there and say, give me 10 squats, give me 6 squats. This is I've just started doing this a lot over the past year, and wow, I mean, they are super engaged. All right, athletic movement. This is where we get into that portion where we can either focus on some linear, some lateral, and some multi-direction. So I've got hopefully some cool ideas here for you. So this one is triple tag. So you'll see I've got, what I like to do with linear movement is also show them the correct start position of how to sprint. So opposite hands, opposite legs. And I like to put them in a position where they can learn how to naturally figure out where to place their foot to get the maximum acceleration. So I don't like to overcoach this too much. If they're doing the wrong thing consistently, just like when you're teaching technique with their strokes, if you're teaching the wrong, if you're seeing the wrong thing consistently, you would jump in and correct it. As all coaches do. So I apply the same method here. But again, this is going to teach them how to run properly, which is a real important foundation of obviously playing. So here we're going to have the guy at the front on the right is running away from the person who is on all fours in the middle, who is trying to run away from the person at the back, who is, so it's triple tag. So here we go. Go, 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 go. All righty. So let me pause it a minute there. I'll just show it again. Oopsie, sorry. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. So That's really good. So that was some of the, you know, that's one thing we do from running in a straight line, getting out that position and driving and pushing and running as fast as they can to get away so they don't get tagged. Now we go into a lateral activity. So if you don't hear the language, I call this head, shoulders, knees, and toes. But we do this, you can do this in a straight line. You can do this laterally. This one's a lateral variation. So obviously we do the distances that are really appropriate for tennis. So we do these on the tennis court. So here we go. You'll see head, shoulders, knees, and toes. When I say the same thing 2 times in a row, so I go heads, shoulders, heads, heads. When I say the same thing twice in a row, it's the first person to go get that cone and bring it back to the center wins. So let's take a look. Nice. So they did a really great job with that. And again, as you can see, the team rate, like races, being competitive, you know, we can get all the great work in whilst also letting them have fun with it. Let them compete with each other. Let them work together collaboratively. Let them challenge each other, because I tell you, they're going to give you the best effort when they're competing against each other in a fun environment like this, because there's no pressure on this other than maybe a little bit of pressure they put on their own in their minds. So we're going to go to another linear exercise. I should have put this at the start of the video too, but here's a linear exercise. So one person runs to the middle, now has to run away. When the girl who is running to the middle there starts to slow down, the other girl can start chasing. So there's one. This activity is a multi-directional. So we toss the ball, and we're actually trying to toss it as close to the single sideline as we can. You obviously shorten space for smaller kids, but we're just trying to work together here, side to side. I'm trying to catch her ball, she's trying to catch mine, and we're trying to see how many in a row we can do. When we did this one, me as the girl, she wanted to do like 20 in a row, and we had to shorten it a little bit, but we actually ended up doing 20 in a row, and we were gassed. But Mia decided she wanted to do 20 in a row. I had to step up to the plate. I was sore the next day, but she had fun with it. I had fun with it. It was a good way to get get ourselves interactive with each other. All right, so the last thing I got for you before we hopefully have some questions. Again, these are some more pictures. You'll see a head, shoulders, knees, and toes variation there with a squat. Rock, paper, scissors there on the top right. And then a multi-ball directional. I toss one ball, they pick it. I toss a second ball, they get it. Some cool little activities there. All right, so I like to finish with, as I mentioned, with engaging eyes, mind, feet, and hands. Although in this one, they couldn't really use their hands, but soccer, tennis. I'm just going to play this out. And I want you to know, before the start of this week, when all these kids came in, only one of them has ever done organized soccer. And only one of them has ever actually then played at home with their family. But there's 3 kids that have never played. One kid that's played quite a bit, and one kid that's kind of did it because dad used to play or whatever. Okay, this was about day 3 or 4 into the week. We did it every day because they wanted to do it. They loved doing it. And this is quality. This is just soccer tennis. I'll play it out. So what we're allowed 2 bounces, unlimited touches. The unlimited touches gives them the freedom of being able to try and keep the ball up as much as they can and control it. And then 2 bounces because you need to have a marker there. So you see they're working together, they're moving, they're anticipating. Oh, my teammate just pulled me out of my own court. Was able to rescue it. Back into the point. There's 2 bounces, was able to keep it going. Erica is someone who's improved so much. It's just so cool to see them improving in all their skills. And then there's the point. Let's pause this a minute. So that's just soccer tennis. And again, I think if some of you tried a game like that with a soccer ball, I get a size 4 soccer ball. If any of you try an activity like that, it may look pretty horrendous to start. Our first day with those same kids was pretty horrendous. But the more they do it, they start to work on their control. And I tell you, when they go home, all these kids go and buy soccer balls because they want to get better at it. and they'll come back the next day or 2 or 3 or 4 or the next week, and they go, oh, let's play soccer tennis again. I've improved. I want to show you. And that's really cool when they can come to you, just like they do with their tennis after a match, and they go, I serve so well that the kick serve you were showing me, or the slice, or the continental grip, it was just working so well, and wow, like I'm fired up, right? So this game is a big group activity. We call this gator ball. It's basically Swedish handball. They're not allowed to move with the ball. Every time they catch it, they have to touch the floor, and one team has to score in a area, in a circle at the other end of the court, and one team has to score down the other end. So I'm just going to play this out for you. So this one, I hear the noise. I'm not sure if you're hearing the noise, but I'm just going to it's quite noisy.
There's no noise, so it's just muted. So I think for this one might be a little bit better then.
And there's a point. And then I think we've got one more showing the voice. So if you can't hear the noise, the reason I wasn't saying anything is because it was so loud in my ears. The girls are screaming at each other. They're laughing. Anyway, they're just having fun with it. But you can see them as they play that game. Their eyes, their minds have to be engaged. They have to pass and move and get into open spaces. Obviously, their legs, the hands, the focus of catching the ball. And we generally tell them, you know, the younger kids, I would say 2 hands. The older kids, 1 hand only. And again, depending on the parameter, sometimes we say no bounce is allowed when you're throwing the ball to your teammate. Sometimes we say you can have 1 bounce. So we change up the rules sometimes according to the level. Here's a group of boys. Now, the reason I'm showing you the same exercise twice is you'll see in that first game that there's more players on the court. This one's less. This is a 3v3. And I think you obviously see with the 3v3, there's going to be a lot more movement, and they're covering a lot more space. But this is a good one. I decided to stick to calling it Gator Ball because Coach John Glover, who was a Gator, and Laurie Riffis, whose son is Sam Riffis, one of the best college players in the country, who plays at University of Florida. They decided we're calling this Gator Ball because they played a similar game at the University of Florida. So I had to give them that one. But again, super fun game, really great activity to finish with before they start their session, or again, can be standalone sessions. I play it every single time with them. It's very physical. It is challenging. They will get a good sweat on, and they will work on a lot of conditioning elements, some speed elements, some power elements, and obviously their movement qualities. So a couple other games we love to play, tic-tac-toe. They love that one. And then the one at the bottom is just Gator Ball again, if the video wasn't going to work. So I always love leaving presentations, giving some, at least I've hopefully given you some good viewing material. I'm going to give you some good reading material that's really impacted my life over the past 5-6 years. And so these books, hopefully you can take a screenshot of this right now, but these books have been massive in my education and my development as a coach from all levels, from mental, emotional, social, physical, technical, tactical. I like to incorporate all those when I'm designing out an activity or a game or a plan. And yeah, I like to make sure I'm covering all elements. But 2, I think if I was to pick 2 to really point you in the direction of with this, it would be Practice Perfect by Doug Lemov. That is an incredible book, That was a book that I read 3 times in a row, read it once, read it a second time underlining, read it a third time taking notes. An incredible book just to learn best practices from somebody that has studied teaching and coaching for many years and watched tens of thousands of hours of teachers and coaches actually coaching and giving feedback. He's a guy that was impactful in putting together the Teach for America curriculums when he produced his book, Teach Like a Champion. So Teach Like a Champion's another book, but some world-class material in there. And the one next to it, the Playmaker's Advantage. That's all about, when we teach kids, coach kids, train kids, it's not just physical. It's about helping them become better decision makers, problem solvers, and helping them become more creative. because essentially it doesn't matter what sport they play or in life, if they don't have a good level of decision-making, problem solving, or creativity, they're going to limit their ceiling in whatever they decide to do in their lives. Those two books were massively impactful. And then, the USTA Mental Skills and Drills Handbook, if you haven't seen that, that's been around for quite a while, but Larry Lauer, Dan Gould, Paul Lubbers, Mark Kovacs, four of the, best, the world-class practitioners and researchers, educators in the country, if not the world. Phenomenal book. And obviously the other ones are good too. So, all righty. So let's discuss if there's any questions. I believe we've got about 10 minutes. Hopefully I'd be happy to answer your questions. I went a little bit longer than I wanted to. So happy to dive straight into the questions now as I'm going to take off the screen sharing. But really, thank you for watching. I hope the videos came through well. I'm sorry if they didn't, but we'll get into that right now. So Evan, what have we got?
All right, we have
videos came in good, Johnny. Yeah, Johnny, videos came in great. So no problem there. But I'm gonna hand it over to Renee to go over the Q&A stuff.
All righty.
The only question right now, so I hope people start typing. The only question we have is, in the beginning, you stated all those statistics about play and play that kids get. So Allison asked, how is free play factored into all those statistics?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the unfortunate thing is free play is not factored in. You could say that physical education is part of free play, especially with the way I've seen it, some of it delivered is physical educators are now just sort of hands off and just letting the kids kind of do whatever they want, play tag for 30 minutes or dodgeball. But the real, the real shame of it all is recess was their free play. Recess is diminished. Spending more time at their tennis facilities or their clubs, their sports clubs, and where families would just hang out with each other on the weekends, get food, drinks, kids messing around, kids calling each other up just to go and play with each other. Unfortunately, that's all gone. And so in the statistics, there is no mention of free play. So that's telling me everything there about free play in that it's not factored in. But again, some of the recommendations around free play is that other than, it's not necessarily like you should do this. It's just like free play is important. It's important for kids to go out there and be creative and mess around with each other. For one reason or another, free play is diminished. We know obviously with PE diminishing and the professionalization of youth sports, that has completely taken away the option to free play. So again, going back to one of those first few slides with when I punched in that finger through the screen, is I think that's our responsibility. And I think it's every parent's responsibility to provide opportunities for free play. And I say, if we know parents and families are not doing it, I think us as coaches and educators should be leading by example with our education to parents and saying, hey, let's provide opportunities for free play. When you go home, let them go to the park for 20 minutes every day. Or, I'm going to provide in my club or facility a couple times a week where kids can just come down and play by themselves and it's free and, stuff like that. And I know that's sometimes difficult with court utilization and pressures from maybe upper management and facilities, but I say where there's a will, there's a way, and we've got to find a way. That's a great question.
Another question, what percentage do you allocate for cooling down process for the group sessions?
Yeah, that's another great question. So cooling down is now something I'm starting to explore a lot more in detail because again, I'm just like how I was starting to see the standard dynamic warm-ups around the country were pretty poor in their engagement level, their effort level. We see the same with the cool down. No matter how we try and make it interactive, we have one kid leading, the other kid's following, but after about 2 minutes, they're all chatting with each other and they're not even watching the leader anymore. So how do we make that process more impactful? But in terms of time, let's say after, I'd always allocate at least 10 minutes to making sure the kids went through a cool down routine. And when I say cool down, it's quite often when they come off the court after picking up balls and things like that, they're already cooled down. Their heart rate's already lowered, things like that. So you'll often see this with a cool down too, is They finish their session, they spend 5 minutes picking up balls, they get water, you wait for all the groups to come in, and then we send them out to go and do 2 very slow jogging laps. Well, that's not cooling down, that's warming up again, because by the time you'll get them all together to go do a couple laps, their heart rates have actually elevated. And I put heart rate monitors on kids sometimes to prove a point, you know, to some of the coaches that show this isn't a cool down. A cool down is supposed to lower heart rates. A cool down is also to take advantage of the fact that their bodies or their muscles are their most warm. When their bodies and muscles are most warm, that's the greatest opportunity to then start improving their mobility of their joints and their flexibility of their muscles. So if you imagine one of those nugget bars or nougat bars, whatever you call them over here, when they're really warmed up, they stretch out. When they're really cold, they snap. So that's like a muscle. The muscle's really cold, it's going to snap. But if it's really warm, that's our opportunity to keep stretching it, stretching it, stretching it, stretching it. Well, that's what we got to take advantage of in the cool down, is trying to focus on that range of mobility. So I actually believe in doing bands in the cool down, because with the bands, with the external, internal rotations, they're going to be able to get more range of motion because their joints and their muscles are most warm. So I'm starting to explore that a lot more, but definitely 10 minutes. And I often like to use the cool down as an opportunity for the kids to lead it themselves. We have to provide opportunities for them to take ownership in the warm-ups, the cool downs, and in their own, and in our athletic development or fitness sessions. That's really important for buy-in as well. So great question. And yeah, something that I didn't cover that I probably should have though. So thank you for asking.
Last question. Are these movement exercises designed to be conducted all through the season, or are they more of a focus during the preseason?
Oh, I mean, another good question, because I think there's a purpose to every exercise, and with every exercise, there's many variations of it. We can do variations by intensity. So when I say intensity, if you constrain space or increase space of the environment of what they're doing with the activity, you can manipulate intensity. So if they have to get a ball that's further away, you increase the intensity because they have to work a lot harder to get that ball after one bounce, right? But if the ball's right next to them, the intensity is much lower because it's right there and they don't have to move as much. So the intensity is one way that we can factor in. The other is time. How much time do we ask the kids to do one given activity? Because the more you increase the time, the more obviously of a conditioning element that you're adding in. So what I would say is these exercises can be used throughout the whole year. Again, I do every activity you just saw there, I've used for warm-ups when they have tournaments coming up. I've used them as standalone sessions. If we had a strength and balance session, standalone session, we'd be doing a lot of those tapping, isometric holds, holding one position, going across the body. But if I was to do it in preseason, I may just increase the amount of reps that they're getting without knowing that they're actually doing the reps. So we call this quote, like, it's repetitions without repetitions, that they don't even realize how many reps they're doing. And quite often they do more reps than we would prescribe if we say do 3 times 10, do 5 times 6 of this. So great question. Definitely can be sprinkled in throughout the whole year. And you can use those exercises in the preseason, or in a preseason. You might just adjust the length, adjust the intensity to meet what you're trying to achieve, the goals you're trying to achieve. So
there is another question. Everyone is loving this presentation, and I just want to make it known that we are going to put the recording on our website, thetennisconference.com. But someone asked if you have a resource with all these activities in one place.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's actually something I'm working on, is putting a little platform together to house a lot of this into categories like you've just seen. The very surefire, quick fire way is I post a lot of activities like this on my Instagram, not because I'm going to say, hoorah, look at me posting on Instagram. I'm not that type of person, believe me. I post for 2 reasons. One, I post about my kids and my family because my family's in England, and it's the easiest way that they can see my family and my kids. And I get my 3-year-old daughter, she's my little experiment with trying out tons of little activities. But two, I get so many questions about right now, like what you're asking. I get so many questions about what's the best way to improve strength in an 8-year-old? What's the best way to improve their tennis efficient movement patterns in a fitness session? So I just use my Instagram to post up videos like this. Some of the videos I just showed you on my Instagram. My Instagram is, I think it's at JohnnyParks1. I mean, you'll be able to find me on there. Twitter as well. I post up content on there. I think my Twitter is at JohnnyParks1 and my Instagram is Johnny_Parks. So that's the quick fire way. And, you know, when I get my this platform up and running, I'll be sure to send it forward to Seth and to Evan, to Renee. So maybe they can forward on to you. It's going to take me a little while. I've just seen some of in the chat box about what's next for me and what's next in my career. Well, I recently accepted a position as head of strength and conditioning / athletic development for IMG tennis. So overseeing all the sort of activities for the tennis academy as well as the pros that go in and out of training. So there's I thought a great opportunity to really dive in a bit deeper into this side of our sport, and excited by that, but definitely sad to be leaving the USTA. It's been an incredible 4+ years of my life. Even before I joined the USTA, I was doing a lot of activities, a lot of coaching, education, you know, seminars and attending a lot of things like that, and loved every minute of it. So not leaving because of anything else other than taking advantage of a new opportunity. But yeah, so.
Awesome. Well, Johnny, we can't thank you enough. With this being your last day, you know, hopefully this was a good swan song for you. I definitely got a lot out of this. This is definitely some great material. So I hope everybody who joined in also did. Well, like Renee said before, we will be posting the recording online here in the next couple of days. So you will have the opportunity to take a look at the videos and all that stuff. But with that being said, Johnny, we thank you so much for giving this presentation, and best of luck going forward with you at IMG.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and thank you all so much for attending. I know you're all busy back on court again, so thank you so much for your time. And if there's anything I can ever do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out to me on social media or any other, you know, my email's johnnyparkstennis@gmail.com. But I'm sure I'll have a new one soon. So anyway, thank you so much, Evan, Seth, Renee, and thank you all for attending.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.